Hello there. So, part 3, Hamish, what the fuck are you talking about? This one might not be as long. We'll see. Um, like this is great. Talk about love. This is like true love, big girl love. Blah blah blah. Compassion, unconditional love. What are we actually talking about here? Um, it's a great question. Um, and and it kind of leads into this idea of what do we actually know? What do we feel that we know? What do we believe that we know? Because my easy answer, which is like a guru answer, right? It's a bullshit answer, but it's also the only answer there is about what is love. Is you have no way of knowing what it is. You only know what it isn't, and it isn't everything else. So just keep pulling shit away. Like when you find something that could be, like, because you're going looking for it, right? You're going inside you, you're looking for it. And you find it, you go, I found it. No, that's a candelabra. Wow, look, I think I found it now. No, that's a rotten apple. No, that's the odd sock that I've been looking for 2 months. Like, go looking, go hunting, and the more you find what it isn't, like, you'll get a better idea of what it is. It's the wonderful Vedic phrase, neti, 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 not that, not that, not that. I mean, there's a Zen version as well, but but it's perfect, right? That's what we're after. You're going to struggle, and this leads right back to the original video that I made about this. Like, if you deliberately separated yourself from this frequency, this entity, this wellspring that we're going to call love, then to do a really good job of that, you would need to forget what it is, because you have to do a good job, because if you walk in here as love, the beings who separated themselves, or imagine that they separated themselves, they did the impossible, they did something that can't be done, they separated themselves from the thing that is everything, they won't be able to see you. They won't be able to connect with you because they're separate from you. So you have to convince yourself that you are separate from love as well, which means that you are not going to know love when you see it, because you separated yourself from it. You pulled out that bit of the operating manual and you threw it over your shoulder. Gone. So you deliberately will not know it when you see it, or feel it, or experience it, or whatever. So doing the war of attrition, not that, not that, not that. I mean, that's one way to get there. But like, it's about also throwing everything out, all your attachments, all your beliefs, all your knowledge, all your ideas. Like what was the American Civil War actually about? Did Napoleon even exist? Well, he must have. They just made a movie about him, right? With what's his name, Phoenix. So it must be real. What were the Napoleonic Wars? What was the French Revolution about? Well, we know what the French Revolution was about. Like, it was, it was the people, like the American Revolution. It was the people rising up and overthrowing tyranny. Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake because they can't afford bread. Well, that's interesting, because Philip, he was actually the one that deregulated the wheat industry in France so that people could afford bread. So it's interesting that they would also hold this opinion that they don't give a shit whether you could afford bread or not. That's funny. I wonder, did he make any important enemies in France while he was doing these reforms and trying to, like, bring the country back? I'm not saying he was a good guy, but certainly the people that chopped all their heads off weren't good guys. Like, that version of history is wrong answer. Like, do you think turning Protestants in a Catholic country from second rates, actually not citizens at all, they had no rights, you had nothing in France, and suddenly he brings in reforms where Protestants would have some sort of basic human rights in the country? Wonder if that made him any enemies. Like, do you know your history, or do you know your history? Like, what do you know? because that makes a difference. When you're looking for love, what do you know about love? What's your idea about love? What's your experience of love? How does that sit? Who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? Yeah. What's your foundation? What's it built on? Because what we think we know about history is a laughable joke, and even the recorded history, however you want to run that, is going to show you that what you think you know, you don't know at all. And then you'll look at it and go, and it's not even now, because you'll get the next story, the next layer, which is the exact opposite of what you were taught. And then from there you're going to go, and now what? Because that layer could be just as false as the first layer. Like, all right, European people first came to Australia in the 1780s. And then within 50 years of just like convicts and people coming out, they had production cranked up so much that they made all these amazing buildings. Well, I mean, even labourers, good stonemasons and brickmakers, and they were all convicts as well. Okay, yeah. What was the population of Melbourne or Brisbane when they were making those buildings? Oh, the population was so small that they wouldn't have even been able to make enough building materials in the time frame to make the buildings, let alone and then build them. Well, that's interesting. So were Europeans here for longer? Were people here with light skin and red hair and blue eyes before the Europeans got here? Are there any stories or myths that might back that up? Are there any pyramids around? Did the Indigenous Australians build pyramids and put glyphs on them that look like hieroglyphs? Was there more than one culture banging around here? I don't know. Are there any other places around here that look like they have stories like that? Oh, well, interestingly, in New Zealand, the Maoris say when they came to New Zealand, there were white-skinned, red-haired tribes on the South Island. And they ate most of them and killed a lot more. And they're still there. And when you look at them, you think they're Europeans. Good morning, Apollo. Like, what do you think you know? What do you think you know about your family? What do you think you know about your heritage? Ancestry, 23andMe. What do you think you know about your bloodlines? Now, what do you think you know about love? Because odds on, you've got as small an idea about that and as a misguided idea about that as you do about any sort of history, be it mainstream or alternative, because as Napoleon, who probably didn't exist, was well quoted as saying, when the enemy gives you 3 options, take the 4th. I mean, it actually also comes from Sun Tzu in Asia, and it's not actually can be attributed to anyone, it's just a smart way of thinking. If your enemy gives you 3 options, look for the 4th, or in fact the 5th, because if the enemy's smart, they will give you 3 options out in the open and another hidden one for you to take. You don't want any of them. None of them. You want something else completely. So, I mean, what are you going to do here? You've got to see that it's all a cook-up. You are behind enemy lines, whether you get it or not. And when you're behind enemy lines, that means everything's up for grabs. Because if you're just starting to wake up and look around, like, surely there's contingencies in place for that. So don't just grab hold of the first thing you see. Like put everything up for grabs. Put everything out in the open. And this pulls us back to love, and like actual love, real love, however we're going to word that. Assume that is the thing that you haven't had. Apollo's getting a little bit of love right now. Assume that you haven't touched it yet. or that you've just touched it with the tip of your fingertip. I'm not saying that's real, I'm just saying assume that's the case. And assume that every effort has been made to keep you away from it, because it's keeping you away from yourself and your true nature at every single possible turn. Even if you were given a sniff of it, even if you were given a taste of it, even if you were given and then you were dragged off to the side again, and then you were diverted again. 99 truths to sell one lie. Like, when you start feeling that you are behind enemy lines and the operation is to keep you from yourself, which means to keep you from your true essence, which is love, then you can see that it is a very, very multi-faceted and multi-pronged operation. So if you want to know how to get closer to that, start deep diving, start pulling it apart and looking at what it's not. And just keep going, because it's going to be different for every person. That's the other thing. There's no actual manual for these are the steps. This is what you do, and when you get to here, then you get there. And no. It's not going to work that way at all. So you're going to have to find your own path, and it's like the fellow saying, how come you give this teaching to one person, but then I see you giving this completely opposite teaching to someone else. It's like, well, there's no manual. I just see you walking, I'm behind you, we're walking down the path. I see this person veering off to the left, and I say, go right a bit. And I see this person veering off to the right, and I say, go left a bit. Like, that's it. It's not that complicated. It's about being on the path and staying on the path. And you know when you're on the path because you've been off the path so much. It's like knowing things by what they're not. You know when you're not on the path. You absolutely know. And so move away from that. Move in any direction away from that. And if things get worse, then you're moving even further off the path. Go the other way. It's like experiment with yourself. Get a bit brave about that. Get a bit reckless and a bit ruthless about experimenting with yourself, with your diet, with your feelings, with your anything. Just get in there and have a crack and treat yourself like a science experiment. Try something out and see what happens, and then actually assess it. What worked, what didn't work, move on from there. Because you're trying to get yourself back to the spot. And it takes a bit of navigation. It really does. And then eventually you will get to the point where it doesn't take any navigation. Actually, that's when you know you're off the path. It's because you're thinking and you're navigating but when you're on the path, it's like flow state. You're just in the zone. Totally there. In the moment, and everything's just rolling. So what are we even talking about here? What is love? Well, love is everything, so there's no real answer to that. But you'll know that frequency combination configuration from all the distortions around you. You'll know it from what it's not. So go looking for it, go try and lean into it, and then when you find the thing and it turns out to not be the thing, then go further, lean into it more. But it's a step by step, and it's an experimentation. Right. Much love.